Organizations usually adopt Microsoft 365 gradually. Over time, that initial ease of adoption fractures the environment into hundreds of disconnected fragments. This network map displays the operational symptoms of that fragmentation. Files spread across isolated Teams channels, disconnected OneDrive accounts, and old email attachments. A single document is repeatedly downloaded, duplicated, and renamed as Final V4, bouncing between individual users and isolated storage silos. This disorganization creates gaps in operational visibility. Without central oversight, permissions overlap in ways administrators cannot trace, exposing sensitive information. To operate safely, regulated organizations require a high-integrity, unified system architecture, where data flows sequentially through a single governed pathway. Many organizations attempt to solve this by layering workflow automation directly over their existing setup. But automating a disorganized process accelerates the creation of errors. Structured data architecture must precede automation. The root cause of this fragmentation is how administrators and staff handle the platform. They treat Microsoft 365 like a traditional local file server. This legacy folder mindset forces users to nest directories inside of directories. They apply contradictory permission sets at different levels until nobody is sure who has access to what. In a cloud-native compliance environment, a single source of truth means one authoritative file, stored in one clearly governed location, accessed by users strictly based on their defined role. To achieve operational resilience, organizations must completely dismantle hierarchical folder structures. They must replace those folders with a unified metadata structure and strict version control. Microsoft 365 cannot be treated as a loose collection of consumer desktop apps. It must be deliberately engineered as a relational database. Building this database starts with Layer 1, establishing a rigid repository boundary between personal storage and organizational records. We begin by defining the explicit role of OneDrive. It is a restricted space strictly meant for personal, transient drafts and individual work. The operational trigger point occurs the exact moment a file requires collaboration, needs to be shared, or becomes an official compliance record. At that precise moment, the file must legally and structurally migrate to a centralized SharePoint document library. By migrating the document into SharePoint, the system enforces role-based access control and strips away any ad hoc personal permissions the user may have set. Without enforcing this hard boundary between personal and organizational storage, true version control and clear data ownership are structurally impossible. This diagram shows a traditional nested directory tree. Nested directories actively break Microsoft 365 compliance capabilities by trapping files within rigid geographical limits. As these folder trees grow deeper, they create path length errors and hide critical data from management oversight. Folders also force users to duplicate files whenever a single document logically belongs in two different conceptual categories at once. The structural alternative is the flat SharePoint document library. Instead of placing a file in a geographical folder, we apply structural tags, metadata, directly to the file's DNA. For governance purposes, we require specific practical metadata fields: document type, owner, review date, and compliance category. These tags allow users to dynamically filter massive datasets instantly, rearranging their view based entirely on current operational needs. By stripping away folders and relying on metadata, we eliminate the need to search through endless directories. The system guarantees the retrieval of the exact authoritative file version every time. Metadata transforms a static file repository into a dynamic, queryable compliance engine. With the data structured, we introduce Layer 3, utilizing Power Automate to act as the synchronization engine across the newly established metadata. To prove this concept, we apply it to standardizing a complex clinical or compliance assessment workflow. To prevent errors, we capture structured information directly from the user via Microsoft Forms. Power Automate then instantly routes that raw data into a centralized SharePoint list, automatically mapping the variables to the exact metadata columns established in Layer 2. In the logic phase, the system continuously monitors this metadata to identify predefined high-risk thresholds, such as a severe clinical score. If a risk threshold is breached, a trigger action fires, and Power Automate immediately synchronizes with Microsoft Teams. An automated alert is routed to a specific, restricted Teams channel. The notification contains a direct link to the single authoritative file, ensuring the response team reviews the correct record. Disparate applications now function as a synchronized system. All stakeholders interact with one immutable record, ensuring data integrity. This system map illustrates the architecture of a metadata-driven ecosystem. This structure provides the foundation for advanced operational visibility. A Power BI dashboard can now sit directly on top of the SharePoint list, extracting real-time, highly accurate compliance metrics without manual data entry. Establishing this governed structural baseline is a requirement for deploying advanced AI tools like Microsoft Copilot. If you deploy AI into a fragmented system, Copilot will instantly surface unstructured, over-permissioned, and duplicated legacy data, creating confidentiality risks. A governed single source of truth mitigates this AI risk by strictly defining what data exists and exactly who is allowed to see it. Achieving operational resilience in Microsoft 365 relies on engineering a deliberate architecture.